Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Still Faithful podcast. I'm your host, Rody Rob, on social media, William Robinson in real life. And today we are continuing our conversation with John Delarm and Scott Lauderbaugh. So we will just pick up where we left off. It'll make sense in the grand scheme of things. Take it away, Scott.
So much, Rob. Hey, John, I'm your brother in real life now because Rob said that Scott the alarm. So there you go.
Oh yeah, because whatever. You married
I'm just
my
joking.
you married my
Yeah, got
gay
a
No,
little
brother.
tongue-tied.
no, no, no. All right. So,
All right.
I love it. You guys can see my screen, right? I got it shared.
Yeah, I got it on my end.
All right. So I know we left off the other day, on this, and it was kind of wild too because so a master sergeant who knew that I was fighting this as I'm going through everything, she was like, "Listen," she's like, "I got some stuff to give you, but you can't tell anybody that it came from me." You know what I'm saying? Like that's what she was saying to me. I'm like, okay. So she prints off this, but it's not this. It's something different. This is
Mhm.
different. It's a PowerPoint, and she sent it to me via email and everything. So the document that I actually have printed out in my binder versus this one, totally different. So when we started going through it on what Tuesday, Rob and John, we started seeing basically they're bad. In my estimation, and I could be wrong because it's unclassified and everything like that, but the date is 4 November 2021. Okay. 1300 Eastern Standard Time. That's 1 o'clock p.m. for folks that don't know military time. So as we go through this, you're going to start seeing graphs and things of that nature. We looked at it a little bit on Tuesday, basically showing everything. And they basically just all it is like a sit brief, which is what this is a sit rep, COVID vaccine, OPT update, meaning operation. OPT is operation update. So basically, what's been going on with it. Okay, COVID-19 update, blah, 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 blah. This is what they go into. They basically state, mandated vaccinations. There it is at the top left part of the screen. It says situation and it bullet points down, right? Mandated vaccinations for all DoD members. Now they're basically saying it. You know what I mean? This is what's actually going on in real time back in 2021. Same thing that John went over from his side of the fence line or from the Army side. This is the Air Force side. And there's pretty much something similar on the Navy, Coast Guard, you know what I mean, and other branches, Marine Corps, okay, those branches as well. Could be worded a little bit differently, but they all were going through the same situation. Basically, it goes into here about, you know, leading COVID vax operation, meeting weekly, so they met weekly. Then they go into the guidance. Uh, the first release is 21 October. They also go into when they're going to have service members be vaccinated. So there's a timeline, just like John was saying with his. So this, at least you get to see the actual dates and everything of how this is going and playing out. Here's the operation update. So they're basically showing these are from the Air Force side. Okay. So AD is active duty, ANG is Air National Guard, AFR is Air Force Reserves, and so forth. Okay. Even got Space Force up in here. So they're basically going through how many personnel are assigned, personnel vaccinated, boom, and it goes into detail. Bang, 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 bang. The one thing that we did point out on Tuesday is that service members, that's SMs, religious accommodations approved, okay? Zero. How many were in progress, okay, at the time? There you go. These are all service members who look at the total, 9,605 at the time submitting religious accommodations. Zero approved. That tells you everything you need to know. You've got medical exemptions and things of that nature there. Um, then they also have refused. Okay, they know about the refusals. These are the service members that are refusing to be vaccinated. 2,045. That's just from my base alone. This gives you percentages of, let's see, personnel with at least one dose, 89.6%, and then so forth. Second dose, refused vaccination. There you go. There's the number. Okay. We'll scroll down a little bit here. This is the timeline to vaccinate everybody. There had to be a certain deadline, which was 3 December 2021. Says it right there. ARC deadline. Within 30 days remaining until they had 30 days remaining until 2nd November mandate. Okay, so then it goes in the percentages again. Active duty was 95%. Air Force Reserve with 30 days remaining until 2 December mandate is 89.6%. They needed everybody at 100%. We all know this. But the American public that not knowing, that's where they needed everybody to be at. The graph before that tells you that there was service members that were standing up for their rights, their oath, and for other service members out there throughout the country and around the world. This part here goes into detail as far as it says members in decline. Looks like supervisors are going to work with servicing RMU codes. John, you know a little about the codes and everything like that for Air Force Reserves. This is basically just guidance that they're going through about people that they know they're going into the AR admin refusal. So this is basically the percentages here, and then you basically go into it. So you'll see green is the 4th not started, 10th not started, 22nd not started yet, and then IMAs. This one here goes into basically the COVID vaccination implementations. So again, down here in the graph, they basically break it down for everybody there in these meetings who has not started yet. And this is on my base. So they have certain areas like 22nd Air Force headquarters. They have like one person hasn't even started yet. So they're basically tracking. This is just to show the proof that they're tracking everybody, basically. They're tracking to make sure that everybody is up to par. Everybody's following the law, their law, not with the real law is. Okay, so this is the duty status for COVID vaccine status on the military bases that are in the Pennsylvania. So here they show the graph again. Anything in dark green is completed. You know what I mean? These folks in the light green are just on 1 dose, 2 dose here, and then not started. So you'll see a lot of the red here that nobody's even done it yet. And these are different Air Force bases here. So they're tracking everything. The 911th Air Force Base wing, that was the base I was on. So 13 hadn't started it yet. The dark blue is admin exempt, which is no dark blue at all. Medical exemption, I think there's like 13. My bad. That's 4. Seeking religious accommodation requests, 18. And then refused pending admin separation, which was like 52 at that point in time. The rest of everybody else was fully vaccinated. Well, at least 1 shot going on 2 shots. 1,110 service members on the base. So that shows you the graphs there, and you can kind of see the color.
That dark green says
complete.
Yeah.
Right. That means that they got everything done.
They got both shots, yeah.
Yep.
This is outstanding that you were able to collect all of this.
It's crazy that that was given to me. And again, like I said, she knew what I was up against. I think my story is I kind of started in the middle of my story, so to speak, so I could show the actual evidence of what was going on my base. Right. And I'll kind of get into like what I went through, but I'll bust through it pretty fast because for time constraints. Then they basically go into the religious accommodations, operating in work. I mean, you can kind of just read it. I'm just going to kind of go through it. The one thing that really caught my attention were the graphs.
Yeah.
The graphs caught my attention pretty big. I'm like, holy cow, this is what's happening in real time.
Well, that's just proof that
it is.
Well, it's proof in and of itself, but it's proof to the fact that like they can't plead ignorance on anything. Like not even the numbers where they mess it up and they cite like 8,700. They know exactly
Right.
who got separated for what and who took what and how many, and they have all of that data. They're so full of shit if they even pretend
Hmm.
otherwise, and they do
Yeah.
every day with the type of placaty posts that they put on social media. Just this is proof that they there is no excuse. There is no.
Nope. There's none whatsoever. And what they did was they segregated everybody. You could see it on the graph that people are segregated. They know exactly who got what, where they are, and everything else. Well, they did the same thing and segregated everybody on my base. So anybody that went through the shot lines and everything, they were already documenting, writing them down, their vaccine card and all that stuff. So they already know who got it, who didn't get it. And then they split everybody up. So they put medical exemptions over here, religious accommodations over here. People who flat out refused, they were heading to admin separation, meaning they were getting kicked out right then and there.
Yeah, can you back it
Here's,
up to the other page real quick?
yeah, absolutely.
Just wanted to, not that one, no. I just wanted to see what that was. Yeah, up
This one
one
here,
more.
or one more.
One more. I just want to see, yeah, this one. Okay, I just was wondering what it was. Yeah.
What they did was this is like what's completed and what's in the works. So this is what's completed so far in their plan, right? And then this is what's going on here, like testing protocols, mandate date, current mask and social distancing, all that stuff is there.
This
But
is
here's
a
the crazy thing.
civilian
The
tracking and
civilians,
exemption. What?
yes, they were tracking even the civilians too. So you see, it's not just the military. So anybody could say, oh, no, it was the civilians as well
Well,
on
those
our
are probably
base or on bases.
the workers, yeah, the civilian
Yeah, the
workers. But
civilian workers. Yep.
they
So
sh
let's get down to here. Here's the real kicker. Children, right?
Mhm.
Kids 5 to 17 years old can now receive Pfizer. Wow. Crazy. You want to
And
turn your stomach?
this is
Yeah.
from when is this is from October or November of 21?
Yeah, but they had this thing in the
November.
plan.
November.
This is just the November briefing. This was already in the works from September when they dropped it was September 11th of all dates that when they dropped the letter on everybody during drill for me on
That's
my
not
end
by
of things.
accident.
No. So then you see here they have, you have the Pfizer BioNTech, right? Moderna and Janssen. So Janssen was out then, and you really don't hear about Janssen much, but it was what was one shot or whatever, right?
Yeah, but
And that was
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
they're still
Yeah.
not talking about. I don't see
Oh,
anything on here that says Comirnaty at all.
nope. No. I just like to keep it up just so people could actually read it before we start moving forward and everything.
Oh, for sure.
To prevent barriers of vaccination, proof of underlying condition or occupational risk are not required to receive a booster dose. Wow. Booster doses are not part of any mandatory COVID-19 vaccination requirement within the DoD at this time. That was then. Then they started requiring the boosters after that when they changed everything.
When they start the boosters.
It was right after the deadline.
Well,
I
I
would
mean,
say January.
it was the boosters were never mandated, but maybe they were just pushing for them to
They
get
were
them,
pushing it, yeah, afterwards.
which they can't.
Because
They
remember they were saying get it, you had to get two doses, and then you had to get your boosters after.
well, yeah, but that it was never mandated, but they were doing the same thing for the guys in Korea, in the army.
Mhm.
They were telling them because they're fully vaccinated to go to Korea, and then in Korea they told them they couldn't go to the gym or do anything basically unless they got their booster.
Yep.
And so, but even though it's not that was never a mandate, they just I don't know, that's fucked up. That's all I know.
Here's
Yeah.
looks to me like their scoring records for each base. Because this says worldwide, and then they came up with the cases and everything, right? So they're putting out the case numbers and stuff at that point in time. So was that world population, and then daily cases, and then 14-day change plus 6%. The United States population, and then daily cases, blah 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 blah. These are the total cases they were pulling from different Air Force bases at that point in time.
Hmm.
Then this one here is COVID-19 cases at AFRC, which is Air Force Reserve Command, and co-local bases. So at that point in time, this is what they were stating. Total cases of all personnel. AFRC is Air Force Reserve Command military only. Those were I guess, total cases at the time. And then these were the total cases at these Air Force Base installations at that point in time as well. So Scott, Warner Robins, Hill, so on and so forth, right?
Like the total
Then,
cases of catching
yeah,
COVID, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically. And then the
Even though
dark
the
blue.
PCR tests are bullshit.
hmm On, so that's we know what that is. That's like your security detail. So blue is Alpha, Bravo, orange, and then red Delta. There's no red whatsoever. I mean, orange Charlie is Wright Patterson of all bases, which is in Ohio. Task reviewer, multi-crisis task tracker. They're like I said, it's a tracker, so they're watching everything, and then they will in the final comments. But getting back to everything, like I was saying beforehand, they were tracking
Uh,
everybody, man. It's clear as day. So that's that. And then I'm gonna go into kind of like my story, my affidavit of truth. I
hey,
don't like what
Scott.
John. You,
Hey, it's funny how they can track all this shit, but when it came to like vaccine injuries, they're like, ah, yeah, fuck this shit. We don't
yeah,
care about that. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah,
information's all
and
wrong. We can't track that.
that's important to highlight too, because they know exactly what they did, exactly who they did it to.
yep.
They know
The other thing,
every single one.
the other thing too is that, and I don't 100% as far as my case goes. Put my career on the shelf is because they knew that I was collecting information as I was going through it. They don't know about that, what I just showed you. They don't know about, well, they will, one day. Now they will, right? But I don't care because, in my opinion, I'm gonna start dropping documents. I just don't care anymore. I'm gonna pull Lance Castle. I'm gonna start screen shooting shit, and I'm gonna start dumping it all over my social media. I've had it really because it's really disgusting. The American public is being blindsided by all this. They were never told about it. Ron Johnson, they just came out 6 years later and started telling everybody that it's a biological weapon on from Ron Johnson the other day. You know what I mean? Just started coming out. Now it's posted all over X, all over social media and everything. This is 6 years in the making, bro. You gonna come out and and try to stop it? Not to mention, John, you said that they're still putting it out there, right? They're still injecting people with it. Even get shows from Billy Mosley's the FOIA request still shows in 2025 was they're still injecting service members on outside of the medical base, the military bases. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
wild
Yeah, and
stuff, man.
I've gotten a lot of comments about that on social media about people like, oh, well, it's not being forced anymore. Well, blah, 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 individual choice. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, but you wouldn't let your mother drink motor oil. We know that this is poison. We know that this is harmful to anybody that takes it. And there's no reason whatsoever it should still be on the schedule, period, even for the unwitting participants in this experiment. Um,
Right.
it doesn't matter if it's not
Mhm.
being forced or not. It shouldn't have been implemented in the first place. That's the whole point. And it needs to be, these people have the power to remove it from the schedule. They can at any time, and they should. And that's why we're drawing attention to it with things like Billy's FOIA. Since we're talking about it, that I've been seeing that a lot lately, and I wanted to address that in this video.
Yeah.
It's no excuse. It doesn't matter if it's, you're in favor of the administration at large or not. This is a chink in their armor, and it needs to be rectified. And I don't think, saying that oh well it's optional now is good enough. I think that's insane actually. It's a dumb way to try to excuse its continuation.
Yep.
But with that I'll give it back to you, Scott.
It's all good. So my affidavit of truth, I did it. Mark Bashaw did it. John did his. I worked off of that. You know what I mean? We were working with each other and getting our stuff done. I basically put mine together. Um, I mean, my career pretty much started, October 1993. I had break in service, um, partially through to go to culinary school for college and stuff like that for my jobs, and um, and then went back into service. So um, basically, I went to Navy right out of high school. I was in S5 division, which is wardroom for officers. I completely skipped, enlisted in Chief's Galley, and started S5 division in wardroom, cooking for about 2, 3 years. We got bumped up to captain chef. I was on the USS John F. Kennedy. CV-67 is the last aircraft carrier oil burner in the fleet at that point in time, and then became a training carrier. It was kind of like the movie Top Gun. That was the first part of my career. Army Reserves, 630 Transportation Unit. I was tractor trailer driver, 88 Mike 92 Golf. Did about 2.5 years there, and then joined the 171st Air National Guard. I was a chef there. They were a refueling wing in Pittsburgh. Did about 13, 14 years there, and then finished out at the 911th Air Force Base, where I should have retired in 2022 honorably, but then the bullshit of the COVID stuff happened, and then I stood up against it. Basically, stood up to my command and protected my airmen as best I could, and stood up for them. A lot of them were just like grabbing onto my damn uniform that day. I remember it as if it was yesterday. So yeah, crazy times. But so I was a chef, and then I basically trained other airmen on the all the cooking equipment, temperature danger zones, professionalism of how to create real food, not stuff that's out of a box. I'm talking about from scratch, having pride in your work, presentation, and customer service, things like that. We had a great team that was there. I loved every minute of it, especially the last part of my career. I thought the pinnacle of my career was on the Kennedy because I got to cook for John F. Kennedy's daughter, Carolyn Kennedy. We went to Ireland, and a lot of the high-end dignitaries were there. I got to cook for Secretary of the Navy at the time. There was a lot of people on the ship at that point, and at my age, it was like 23, 24 at that time. So I thought it was like I was riding high at that point, but then this came about, and then this was the pinnacle, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm still in it, fighting with alongside all y'all guys, even though I'm on a road to be retired. So, anyways, it started off basically on September 11th, 2021, during drill. I'm not going to read every single thing. I'm just going to pinpoint. They basically came out with the letter, documented once, 1 September, mandatory Air Force mandatory vaccination implementation, blah, 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 blah. I refused to sign it at first, but then they were like, hey, it's just signing the order. If you don't sign the order, then it acknowledges it. So I basically ran into some folks on my lunchtime they dealt with constitutional law. They basically told me I could sign it under duress and then USC code 1-308. So when I signed it, their eyeballs basically popped out of their head like, what the F is going on here? So I never put my signature on any of the documents. I basically refused to sign everything. So it basically, like I said, it goes into, let me refresh this. It goes up to like 50 something lines. So, like I said, I'll point out some of the officers and stuff like that, kind of like John did. So, Lieutenant Colonel LeBon, there was Lieutenant Colonel Campo, um, Colonel Robinson, and Major Hoth. And then there's a couple other yahoos in the mix too that were officers that didn't do what they were supposed to do. They just basically kept pushing everything. When I submitted my first religious accommodation, I had a letter from my pastor on top of that. Even with that, even with that, and like my pastor, like from when I was little, So I'm Roman Catholic. So I did penance, communion, confirmation, all those things that you do as Roman Catholic. You know what I mean? Even with that letter from the pastor, still didn't get approved. So everybody's didn't get approved. Anybody that submitted a religious accommodation didn't get approved whatsoever. At that point in time, you could appeal it and then write a letter back, and then they would say, no, no good on your appeal. We're going to put you into the IRR, which is inactive ready reserve. Basically, that's what they do with your career, and they put it on the shelf so your career basically goes and dies. So I'll skip a couple pages through because like I said, this is kind of tedious. I mean, there's a couple of people that stand out here. Jeff Pennington, he was a major general. He, you know, uh, basically stated, what I mean, they denied my religious accommodation. Well, I just told you that, you know what I mean? So it goes page by page by page. It's pretty much the same riff, you know what I mean, as you go through it. Um, I submitted two IG complaints. I'll touch on that. They basically swept them under the rug completely. I submitted an EEOC complaint against my commander for what was going on in the base. Basically, they were breaking every rule in the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, whether it was coercion, segregation, discrimination, all of those things that would basically put somebody in jail. They swept under the rug. So nobody was punished. They didn't even investigate it. That
And
happened pretty much with
what was your
everybody. So
relationship with some of these commanders and individuals prior to COVID?
the crazy thing is that, and I'm glad you point that out. The crazy thing is that they knew me because we cooked their, like, they come through the chow line every drill. We cooked their food and everything. They knew who I was. They ordered new equipment if I needed it. You know what I mean? I had to go to certain, especially my commanders, in order to get the new equipment approved, like new ovens and stuff like that, and then train those airmen on it. But they were even back there, like, looking at everything that we were doing because the morale was so high before this shit happened. You know what I mean? Everything was going really good. It was good teamwork and everything, and then the bottom dropped out pretty much.
Well, I got another
Um,
question for you real quick. Since
yes.
you'll be able to comment on this since you were in the culinary field
Mhm.
within the military. After COVID started and uh everybody was early on or later on, I guess. Like, was there ever did you ever get any sort of like attitude or foul treatment, like you working with food was as an unvaccinated airman was like a problem or gross, like?
I think, well, here's the crazy thing. So the only good thing about Colonel Robinson that I will say is that he didn't force mask anybody and they didn't force PCR test anybody. If they wanted to do it, they can go down to medical and do it. Some people masked if they wanted to. I didn't. And I didn't take no damn test either because I knew that shit was just as bad as the friggin' biological weapon jabs. So that was one good thing. The other crazy thing about it is as I'm fighting this and everything, so I stood up in front of my command. They basically said, hey, everybody's going to get this, blah, 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 blah. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Well, for me, I already had all the information wrote out because I knew they already told us that we were going to have this meeting. So I basically raised my hand and said, yes, ma'am, I do. I stood up and I basically handed out 10 copies of the information, giving it to them in front of my entire squadron. So everybody that was behind me, my airmen that were afraid to get it and didn't want to get it and everything, they were there. But I was the only one that stood up, and it was crazy too, because at that point in time, it was like the adrenaline rush. And then out of my peripheral vision, I was just like looking. I didn't turn my head, but I just kind of side-eyed, and nobody else stood up. It was just me. And I handed it out. I said, I'm calling for a timeout. And you can, as an NCO, if there's danger or if there's a training exercise, somebody gets hurt and everything, John knows this. You can call a timeout, basically stops the operation or whatever, and then you go and investigate everything. Well, that's what I was doing. I was calling a timeout to stop what the hell was happening or trying to stop it. Um, so because to look at both sides of the coin, I said, I have this information here, okay, and you're still pushing this without looking at this, which is harming people. You understand what I'm saying? So at that point in time, that's what was happening. Well, yeah, I was retaliated against right out of the gate. I mean, right then and there. They said, "Oh, you're calling for a declaration of war and this and that." I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm trying to prevent people from my airmen from getting hurt. And I basically said to everybody, I said, I'm going to use this analogy. I said, if there was a female airman at a bar, your duty as a supervisor, or if you're just there and you know them or whatever, your duty is to step in and deflect that, female from getting sexually assaulted. I said, well, you're sexually assaulted people's minds right now with this. I said, and it's not good. And I'm stepping in to say, we're not doing this. You know what I mean? And then right then and there, they retaliated. I mean, every single thing that I did, they put up a wall against me. They were like, you can't leave and finish. You have to finish out your religious accommodation, and you can't leave the base. So luckily, my son has a military ID. My wife does too, but she was working. But I was already working on my religious accommodation, and they wouldn't let me leave, so I couldn't finish it, right? So they thought they had me. Well, my son brought my laptop on the base, and I was in the chapel on the pew. I sat on the floor, my laptop was on the pew, and I finished out my religious accommodation, submitted it to Chaplain Caskey, and then I had to go down to medical, and they had to do their spiel like, you're going to die if you don't get it. Are you going to die on this hill if you don't get it? You know what I mean? All this other shit. And I was like, no, thank you, I'm done. And then I left, and when I left the base that day, there was at least 100 to 250 American citizens right outside our base. So when you leave the base, you come out through the guard gate and then you go over the overpass. There was 250 American citizens with American flags and signs saying, don't vaccinate our service members. And this is why I say this is spiritual for me, because as I'm going through this, there's signs and wonders everywhere. There's like stuff that's happening right before my eyes that's like motivating me. You understand what I mean? Not that I wasn't already motivated, but like, hey, you got to do this now. People are standing up. You know what I mean? It was that next level.
Right.
And that's what was going on then. So we go into, um, like I said, I put it here, we're in January now, 2022. I submitted my statement letter for my second IG. So two IG complaints I submitted, both vaporized. They didn't do nothing about it. So second IG complaint regarding charges of discrimination and mental harassment, not just myself, but my airmen. To the base IG, Major Cassandra Anderson, another officer that didn't do anything. Case, and I put the case number there. There's two different ones. Um, like I said, you're just going through this and you're just seeing retaliation after retaliation after retaliation. What are we on? Page 3 probably now? 4. I mean, again, it's just ongoing retaliation all the way down the line. Let's see, what was this? January, February 2022. This is when it gets really crazy, because now I want to show a picture of as I'm fighting this. So I go to congressional. So my senator, Doug Mastriano, the only senator, the only congressional guy, he's a former Army colonel, senator now in the state of Pennsylvania, the only dude that stands up, like helps me out. So I write a letter to them, and they basically state, I mean, you can read it here. The date was April 5th of 2022. And then his office responds back to me. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. I talked to her on the phone. Again, thank you for your service and holding the line at the most critical time in our nation. As discussed below are links from our medical panel discussion. Now, this is before all this stuff is out now. So it's a medical symposium. You can see all the doctors are there. These are the links that people could go to pull up the symposium that they had in the House in Harrisburg. So in the House of Representatives in Harrisburg, the state House of Representatives. It says, I have also provided short clips for you to view as well. Please do not hesitate to call me if you have any questions. In the meanwhile, I'll be actively searching federal legislation that will gratefully help your efforts. Dr. Arnis is there. Thomas Renz, attorney Thomas Renz, all these guys that are out now that you see were doing this back then, and nobody was doing anything about it. They weren't stopping it then, but they're coming out with it now. So anyways, so I get let me go back real quick to that one page there. I know I'm jumping around here. You can pause it if you want, but I just want to get to that main page again. All right. So I'm just going to skip a couple pages. So I get through that. I wrote a letter to President Trump at the time. It was in Mar-a-Lago. I'll pull that document up for you. I fight congressionally all the way through. And then in 2023, they want me to get a flu shot in March. And I'm like, no. So they tell me submit another religious accommodation. I submit it and everything. And then I'll show you those documents too, that as I'm going through this, they're messing up. So now I'm starting to gather information that I feel is critical, in my opinion. I don't know that anybody else's scale, but for me, because I lived it, I think I could say that. So basically, this is the document that they give me. So I fight the flu. They want to give it to me basically in March, and I'm like, it's not even flu season. So, you know what I mean? Then I started seeing that they were mixing the COVID shot with the flu. So I was like, definitely not, and definitely no. And then what else are they mixing it with, right? So I submitted a religious accommodation for the flu. Now, as I'm going through it, I put all of them on there. I put request a waiver for all the, you know, injections, I'll say, to be wavered. So I submitted religious accommodation. I have my pastor write another letter, and then Chris Ann Hall, who was my constitutional attorney at the time, she wrote a letter to my command that was like, "Hey, listen, he's putting this in. He's going to get reinstated. If you don't, we're taking you to court." So they reinstate me. Well, as I'm going through the reinstatement process, boom, this pops up. So COVID-19. Okay, we just saw that other document that I have says for November of 2021, right? So here's
Right.
the shocker. So here's a shocker, right? And I know you've seen this. We talked about it before. Form current as of 24 November of 2021. So if this vaccine waiver form is there, okay, and that other form that I showed you showed everything that they're pushing everybody to get the biological weapon, what does that tell you? Entrapment, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
entrapping service members. Okay, this is what happened on my base. If this happened on my base, this is happening on every single military installation.
Yeah.
Not only in the country, but probably around the world. They knew about this document and didn't do a damn thing about it. No, no officers said, "Hey, there's a vaccine waiver form. Let's approve their religious accommodation," right? Right? Boom. So why did I get this on my birthday in 2023? That's when I signed off on it. That's Lieutenant Colonel Pounds' signature, nurse practitioner, Lieutenant Colonel LTCOL. There's his business card with his phone number and everything on it. So I sent this is what I sent to Hegseth when I did the letter and everything with John's project that we were working on. So I sent this in there and stapled this little notepad. I said, "Sir, where was this waiver form for all military service members? See form current as of 24/2021." So I sent that in that packet to him with everything. So what does that, what does this shit tell you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. They
I
had
also
this the
sent it
whole time and they withheld it.
exactly. So I sent the letter and I'm trying to remember what the heck that thing is. That John, what's that thing that you send in there for them to sign off on? The return receipt. So anyway, so this is the letter to President Trump back
Certified
on,
mail.
yeah, certified mail. This is a letter to President Trump that I sent him June 4th, 2022. This was right after I got put into the IRR or kicked out. So I sent this to him. Behind it is the certified, where that's why the paperclip's there, the certified mail signature. That went to Hegseth too. I sent this to him as well. That shows the medical symposium that was going on. It also comes from a senator of the United States, right? So they knew about it. So now he knows about it. This was from Congressman Ressenthaler. This is another congressional. This is crazy. So I get reinstated. I finish out my time. No problems, no issues. I had to do like a 6-month reinstatement. That was it. That's all I needed. I retired April 6th, 2024. I'll show you a couple of things about that in a little bit, but I wanted to touch on something. So I'm honorably retired and everything, right? A year later, and I get this letter comes in and says, Warner Robins Air Force Base contacts me and says, "Hey, you're still showing up IRR." Wait a second, I'm a year already honorably retired. How could I be in the IRR? So now I know my records are jacked. Okay. What else did they destroy? Right? What are the records? Now, each service member probably has a 5 to 6 inch binder, maybe one, maybe more than one, okay, of all this evidence, of all these records that potentially have been destroyed. So I submitted they basically come in and say, hey, if he has any questions with anything, COVID vaccination mandate, blah, 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 reinstatement, he could submit the Air Force BCMR, in which I did. Okay, so now I'm questioning my service records. And here's my case and my docket and everything that I got back from Joint Base Andrews. Boom, boom. I'm still waiting, but probably because they know I got everything, so they're probably going to hold my shit off. So that's that part. Let's see. Okay, so going back, so I'm really retired. So, so here's my uh, profile here on X. So here's my retirement ceremony. So this is somebody did this for me for when I was, for my career and everything for when I retired. But it was funny because I put the reprimando pin on my collar. So when I got my official record, I put it on there for my official Air Force thing, which I thought was great because it was like, hey, F you, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
absolutely.
that was cool. So I had that on there hidden and nobody even questioned it. It was crazy. This is when I got the Air Force Accommodation Medal. He's presenting it to me before my retirement. There's other pictures and stuff, but I just wanted to touch base with you on that. I did officially retire, and now my records are destroyed, and I'm being told I'm still inactive reserve. So did I really retire? Here's my proof that I actually retired. So that's what them presenting my retirement certificate, shadow box and everything, a flag. That's my senior master sergeant, my supervisor, and he's actually a cool colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Williams, cool dude. He actually worked crazy thing. How I met him, we were hanging out at the bar and everything. We were talking about food. He actually worked at the same restaurant that I worked at my first job out of the Navy, which was the Manor in West Orange, New Jersey. It was a 4-star, 4 diamond restaurant. He actually worked there as a server while I was a chef there. Kind of wild.
Small world.
So, yeah, small world. So this was my speech and everything. That's that part. So it basically just goes and shows you. Uh,
Yeah,
just
but
another couple things I want to touch
don't
base
forget
on.
about the flag at the gate still. They're still retaliating against you.
Oh yeah, I'll touch on that at the end. So this is Rob Greene's book. I wanted to touch on that because it was pretty wild. So basically, I made a post. I said, "Defending the Constitution behind enemy lines," the book that tells the story of the past 4 years. This is when I retired. I said the signatures in the book tell the truth of what took place. So as I'm retiring, people are opening up the book. I have the book there. They're opening up the book, and one of my airmen gets a Sharpie out and starts signing it. Like, you know how like when you graduate high school and they have like your yearbook and they sign it? Well, they
Hmm.
start signing inside the book. And then people were following after. Like the one airman did, his name was Thompson. He did it, and then everybody else followed behind him and started doing it. So what really touched me, and John knows about this because he did the interview and everything with me, but they start saying, keep standing and trusting in God. Everybody starts putting stuff in there. Thank you for standing up for us. Congrats on winning the fight for freedom. You know what I mean? Like you start seeing all of these comments written in the book. Now I start getting emotional about it because now, you know what I mean? It's showing that here's the truth that service members were hurt by this. You know what I mean? And even though they didn't stand up at that point in time, they stood behind other people that did stand up. You know what I mean? So you could see even Even from recruiting, they even put it signed in here. Even my recruiter that reinstated me signed it. Keep up the good fight. Thank you for standing up for those who can't. That was my recruiter who reinstated me. Like this is the shit that I'm seeing as I'm going through this. I think General Flynn signed it. A whole bunch of people went cover to cover. Basically, there's General Flynn's signature there. There's Seth Keshel. He's Lieutenant Colonel that's fighting. You know what I mean? Out there that was actually advocating for us and stuff with the Declaration of Military Accountability. This is from Defender of the Republic, Katie. She has her own podcast and is actually a citizen journalist reporter. And she even signed it. Thank you for your bravery and inspiring me. I mean, this is what I'm walking in through. You know what I mean? This is what I've been seeing the whole damn time. And then yeah, John touched on it too. So the month after I honorably retired, it was May of 2024. My command put a yellow warning on my ID, but there's nothing on it stating as to the warning of the reason why. They basically retaliated against me because I stood up and because I beat them. So I beat them straight up. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I beat them congressionally. I beat them with a constitutional lawyer who didn't even charge me a dime. Like she charged me nothing because she saw what we were up against and saw the information that I had. So I mean, that's everything in a nutshell. I don't know. Am I missing anything, John?
So
Yeah,
they,
I like
so
that.
they,
I like that story you tell when you talk about how your wife sent you that picture of your dad.
Oh, yeah. That was, give me one second here. Here, get the heck out of here. Yeah, so what happened was, I have to find it. You might have to pause it until I find it, Rob. I want to touch on this picture because let's see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, here's these idiots here these are the commands, the people from my command that retaliated against me. I just wanted to I gotta find the picture, so you may have to pause it.
oh no, I can
This
edit
was
out whatever if we got to
this
fast
was me
forward.
this was me talking to General Flynn about the military accountability and everything.
Outstanding.
So it's pretty deep, dude. It's wild.
So you stood up, went to Congress, got everything that you were supposed to get. They destroy your records and say you're still IIR when you're actually retired, and
Yeah,
they put a warning on your ID
yep.
to fuck with you at the gate every time you go through.
Yeah, every time I go on base, they put it. Look at this is here's the thing here you can put up. So this is my command from back then. I screenshot it, so I
Look at
save
these
everything, right?
clowns.
So this is what they did to everybody, dude.
Look at these clowns. Absolute clown show.
Yep. That's Colonel
111th
Robinson.
Airlift
So,
Wing.
so the people who he didn't force mask, he's masking. You see what I mean? Just to take a photo op. This is what happened there. This is what went on. I can go on and on and on about this.
The pageantry is astounding.
I even posted on there. I said it's a good thing I never wore a mask. This is my comment to this post. I said it's a good thing I never wore a mask or took a fake and poisonous PCR test or took any bioweapon jabs while I served at the 9/11th Air Force Base. Instead I took a stand for my oath and as an NCO to protect my airmen. So I basically rip them when I see this. I tear them apart on there, and then I put down here. I mean, I really tear them up. I put military accountability. I tell them about the service members. Also, I post it right on their damn website, right on their
Did
Facebook
they
page.
delete it? Because I've done that before and I've come back and they've taken my
I
comment
don't,
off.
I don't think so. I don't know. They might have at that point in time.
They're
I really
notorious
don't
for it.
know. I just know that I popped it on there and I screenshot in case they did delete it. Then at least I had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
for
could show you
sure.
guys like down the road. But I just gotta find that picture of my pops. But it was wild. So okay, here it is. So my dad was a Vietnam veteran. He was Seabee. So, so he passed away in 2019 before all this bullshit happened. But he basically, I mean, he raised, I mean, I was the oldest of four. So I have a younger brother and two younger sisters. So as the oldest, you protect your brother and sisters. You know what I mean? So like, if you didn't, like my dad, I mean, back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, it was no joke as a parent and no joke for a kid that stepped out of line. You know what I mean? Because it's not like how it is now where like kids are like, oh, go sit in the corner. No, you got your ass beat.
Yeah,
Okay. So
especially by a Vietnam vet, I can imagine.
yeah. So, but anyways, he raised me, and I mean, both my parents raised me and everything like that. But we had other family members too, like aunts and uncles. But everybody was so condensed, and we learned from everybody. You know what I mean? But anyways, my point about all this is that so we were moving my mom to live with us because she was selling the house and everything. So my wife was there, help my dad had his own plumbing business and everything, and I would help him all the time. But she was there to help my mom to get all her stuff moved in here while I worked, and then I would of course help too. Uh, but anyways, there was a stack of forms that were supposed to get burned or whatever, old records or whatever. And this picture right here, this picture was face down. This is what my wife had told me. So that at the same point that I was standing up from my airman at that time in front of my command, of course I didn't know and what was going on. And my wife didn't know that I stood up either or what I was doing. So after I was done and the adrenaline was friggin' flowing through me like a rocket, I was outside sitting down trying to just gather myself from what I just did. Like, can't believe I just did this. So she sends me a picture of my dad, and this is the picture that she sent me. And when I saw that, it was like, remember I said about rocket fuel? When
Yeah.
certain things that you see in different stages and everything. Well, when I saw that picture, it was like as if my dad was there standing next to me when I stood up. And he always told me, finish what you start. And he also always said, too, when I messed up as a kid, he would also say to me, if someone told you to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, are you going to follow? Well, case in point with this scenario, with the COVID thing, if somebody tells you to do that and you know it's wrong, are you going to do it, basically?
Hmm.
So all of this starts going through my head at that point in time, and that right there was what did it for me. It was like I had like a guardian angel. Not only did I have God with me, but I had my dad with me, even though he wasn't here on earth. You know what I mean? But spiritually, he was with me, and I went through this whole thing, never quitting, because of how I was taught by my dad. You know what I mean? And growing up, you persevered through things. You know, you got your ass whipped. You know what I mean? If you did something wrong, but you really got your ass whipped if you didn't stand up for your brother and sister, and if they got hurt, so like a bully or whatever. So if they got their ass, if they got hurt or whatever, and I didn't stand up for them, guess who got his ass whooped? You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
in this point in time, it's almost the same thing. I'm standing up for my military brothers and sisters. You see what I'm
It's
getting
the
at?
exact same thing. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Yeah. So that's the story of everything. It's never changed. It never will change. But yeah, he was my hero. He was my father was everything to me. You know, I wasn't very close with him growing up because as the oldest, you know, if you mess up, you know, you're pretty much the guinea pig for the other three, you know what I mean? As a joke, you know what I mean? So they don't do what you do. I didn't get in trouble with the law or anything like that. I always challenged, you know, what I mean, I always questioned everything. Well, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, I'll give a scenario. So in the summertime back then, if the street lights came on, you came in the house, okay? So in the summertime, there was a point in time where the street lights came on at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. The sun's just going down, you know what I mean? So I said, hey, do we have to come in the house? And it's a legitimate question. We have to come in the house. He says, well, why? I said, well, you said the street lights were on. Well, don't be a wise ass. I'm like, I'm not. The street lights are on. Do you want us to come in the house or can we stay out longer? You see what I'm getting at? Like,
Right.
I always question things. So so that's what happened. But yep, that's pretty much everything.
Well,
So
he sounds like an outstanding role model.
and then that was him when he pinned on when I became an NCO. He pinned my stripes on me, and that's my pops right there. So
Fantastic.
And then I met everybody else as I'm doing this, and then it was extra rocket fuel. Then it's I'm meeting John, I'm meeting Mark, I'm meeting you, I'm meeting everybody else, Billy. You know what I mean? Everybody. And we all stood up. You got the Declaration of Military Accountability in congressional record, which they know about. They knew about this stuff too. So how come they never did shit? Now, you could look at it any way you want. You could say they were making people stand up for themselves or stand up united. I don't know if that's the way I would go about it, but you know what I mean? To each their own opinion. So, but that's it.
Well,
That's
that,
my story.
you know, all the documentation and both of y'all's stories that we've gone through the past couple episodes, um, all of that in totality just proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew who they were doing it to and how many. They have that data. It's all out there. And this is, you know, it's criminal what they've done. And just what they've done to each of us individually. But it's most people, I think it's hard for most people, especially those that haven't served, to maybe it's easier nowadays because of everything going on, but it's hard
Mm.
for people to, you almost want to rationalize it. Like, why would somebody go along with this, or why would they do this knowingly? Why would they, given for somebody to be given, right, unequivocal proof that this is going to hurt people, this is going to kill people, and to make that decision anyway, that's hard for people to fathom. But it's all deliberate. It was deliberate. It was pre-planned, and it's been around for a long time. And this is just the result of that. It was unchecked forever. I blame a lot of it on the mediocrity of the senior enlisted in the officer corps, honestly, and the culture that's allowed to fester there. I know some of that was facilitated by things like DEI and the JAG Corps, and you can point to things like that all day. But at the end of the day, it has to do with the competent people were taken out, and the incompetent people, or those that would just follow along, were elevated. And that was a long process. That wasn't just 4 years under Biden. That was 20 years. That was 30 years. You can follow a lot of this back to the 60s when it comes to COVID alone.
This
Um,
document here, this is the end part, just to touch base because I didn't show all the pages of the affidavit of truth. So this is the last page. It's notarized. John's was as well notarized. And then the crazy thing is, look at the notarized date, 9/11/2027. That's the expiration. But I signed it 15 of May, 2024. So everything's at the Air Force BCMR. They've got all the evidence. I kept a couple of cards back in my hand, except for the ones I just sent to Hegseth. Those are the ones I dealt out at that point in time because I felt that it needed to be. Um, Everybody's seen those documents. Like so many people have seen that in the 231. I've showed pretty much everybody, and no attorneys or nothing like that have said anything about them.
yeah. And they're definitely
But
data dumping in all of this stuff if they haven't already.
uh,
So
oh
if
yeah.
you're watching this and you haven't yet, like, you should definitely request your records. Anything that has your name on it, from each and every one of your units, from your respective commands, or excuse me, your respective branches, and any medical anything that has your name on it, you want that in your possession,
Mhm.
especially now. And if you already have that, request it anyway and see what they deleted. That's I feel that that's just as important.
Is it cool if I pull up the DMA real fast? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So the petition and everything is they had the one website, which was the initial one in 2024. Well, that got its cyber attack. There were over like 100,000 American citizen signatures on it and military signatures on it, and they cyber attacked it, dumped it down to like 38,000, destroyed pretty much all of it. Come to find out, they reconstituted it, WOC, Wars of Conscience, reconstituted it. Can re-sign, American citizens can re-sign as well. So if reason why I pointed out is because the American public doesn't know anything, or they do, or they don't know anything about it. This is the problem that we have out there now. All this time, even afterwards, John, myself, and others like Derek have been out in the public eye, meaning going out and talking to American citizens about the DMA, about what happened, physically being out in front of people face to face, because nobody, especially the elderly, doesn't use the internet. You know what I mean? So, so just to touch on it real quick, Declaration of Military Accountability is in congressional record. You can download it. You can see all the signatures on it, and you could read it. It's basically a letter to the American people. It's in congressional record. I know I repeat myself, but I'm pointing that out because they know it's in the record. They knew about this. They knew that we stood up to it. And then all the signatures are on there, from Brad Miller to Mark Bashaw. Pete Chambers is on there. I mean, everybody has signed it. There's also some signatures at the end that are redacted because those folks are either still in service or were in service at the time. But this just goes to show the American public that this is what happened. You know what I mean? This is unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, the stories from all the service members that have come out and said this. It has been true from the get-go. And we need American citizens to stand up alongside us and say, hey, why did this shit happen? Why do these service members have this information and others have this information that y'all knew what the hell was going on and nobody stopped it? So it's a good question, isn't it?
I think it's a
Why?
great question.
So that being said, that's what's been going on for the past 6 years, folks.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing your story and your experiences, and you as well, John, in our previous episode. We touched on our first episode in this series about, or we didn't touch on it. We talked about it at length in the first episode about our letter campaign and everything. I wanted to touch back on that again. John, if you want to talk us through part of that and where people can go to get their letters, and what it's about, just to kind of cap off.
Yeah, that's fine. So we put together a letter campaign through the Forgotten Soldiers. Let me see. Sky was episode 92, if I remember correctly. Popped up. But there, it's all over X.
Yeah.
It's all over Facebook. It's pretty much everywhere. Myself, Scott, Rob, Jen, Chaplain James is all have letters. We've all participated in this, trying to get it pushed out. It's a call to action to the American people. It is episode 91 on the Forgotten Soldiers podcast. If you go on episode 91, you'll see um, there's a link on there. The link is access letters of Secretary of War to stop the C-19 vaccine. The individual that works underneath him can actually remove the vaccine from the actual schedule. The mandate is removed from the Secretary of Defense, um, but he can remove it from the actual schedule. And that's the reason why the vaccine is still being able to be given on military medical facilities, which we found out by Billy Mosley. And so, yeah, there's a letter right there with Jen. She's reading that letter. And yeah, I think underneath that, I put in the description box right there. You can click on that drop box right there, and then it'll pull up all letters. So basically, all the letters are written out to where you can just print them off, sign them, and send them to the Secretary of War now, and let him know that he can stop they need to stop the administration of this vaccine. They need to do an investigation. They need to, because basically we know the vaccine is poisonous. We know it hurts people and injures people, and they because they for information that came out with Ted Macy, right? He read all the DMED information, which is like the VAERS database for the military, and it showed a spike in all these different diseases during 2021 after the vaccine came out. So you're talking about cancer and neurological stuff and whatever it was. Teresa Long was grounding pilots during that time frame. So there's a lot of data and information that's out there, and Senator Johnson has all that information documented. So the investigation, really, in my opinion, is done already, even through Children's Health Defense and through what's his face, Peter McCullough's foundation, all proving that all this mRNA technology is horrible and the vaccine is not good for your body. And the more boosters you get, the worse it is. We know that in the beginning, before it even was authorized under emergency use, there was a prophylactic, right? Hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, zinc. Like that mixture alone would take care of the COVID problem. So therefore, legally, you can't even put an EUA out. That's why when President Trump said, "Oh, take hydroxychloroquine or whatever," the media started making fun of him. They pushed back because they had no choice. Because if that information would have got out and allowed to happen, the emergency use authorization would have never happened, period, and we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. But they had to shut that down. So all the way from the EUA was illegal all the way till now. So it's important that we write the Secretary of War and say, hey, you need to stop this. Like the investigation needs to be done. Like, because at the end of the day, when the military removes it from the schedule, that means they can no longer order it in any military medical facility. They can't hold it. They can't inject anybody from there. This includes family members, veterans, service members, anybody that goes in to get a vaccine. And then the people are going to be like, why did they take this out of here? What's going on? That's going to wake somebody up. And furthermore, they need to investigate into it. And they need to investigate all the stuff that I just kind of said, all the harms that it does and everything that goes on, which, like I said, the investigation's done. And then they need to get the damn thing, the approval status of the vaccine revoked.
Right.
And they should have done this shit in 2021 when
Mhm.
they first when all those VAERS things started popping up, all the DMED started popping up, all us whistleblowers started coming out and talking about the problems with it, what's going on. Shit, as soon it was they were illegally pushing out in the military, lying to us, like that's a red flag. Like they should have just halted the entire program. So what the fuck is going on here? Right?
Right.
But they
And
didn't do any of this shit. And so
no,
that is what they need to determine, and they need to revoke that approval status, and they need to get this shit off the face of the fucking planet, period. And they're not, nobody can do it unless we all do it together. And this is the thing right here, like I was talking about before, right? The DOW removal of vaccine is BS. It's all bullshit because with the signature, right? The Secretary of War can bring back that mandate removal right there. Right, the same thing. They remove it from the schedule, they can bring it back too. But guess what? If they actually remove it from the schedule, more people are going to question it and wonder why. And guess what? Right? They're actually going to save people's lives. Because when somebody goes in that doesn't know any better, right? That's just going to get their vaccine, they're going to be like, "Can I get my COVID shot?" They're like, "Oh no, man, we don't give COVID shots no more." Oh, I wonder why. What's going on there? Well, it's fucking poison and it got pulled off the damn schedule, right? And then, like I said, they need to push to revoke the approval status, period. Because just because it's taken off the schedule and it's taken off the mandatory status, with the swipe of a pen, they could bring that shit back. And that's why I say it's bullshit, because a lot of service members are like, I don't want to get a flu shot. I don't want to get a COVID shot. So guess what? They took it off the mandatory. They mandatory removed it. So now soldiers that got kicked out over COVID are like, oh, I can go back in. I don't have to worry about the flu. I don't have to worry about COVID, which are big issues. And so they start going back in. Well, guess what? When Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is no longer Secretary of War, and whoever's next can just fucking sign it back into play. Fuck everybody. Here you go. Go get it again. That's the move. This is very dangerous and what, do the right thing. Like are we protecting big pharma? Right? We're supposed to protect the United States against, enemies, foreign and domestic, right? We're supposed to protect the Constitution of the United States. Who are we protecting here? We're protecting the Secretary of War. If he does not, start the investigation, remove this shit from the schedule, pull it off all military facilities, and push the information up to get it removed, its approval status removed. He's not protecting the Constitution of the United States. He's not protecting the people that he's protecting big pharma. That's exactly what the fuck he's doing. That's all I got.
Right.
And sign your letter and send it to the Secretary of War. Thanks.
And yeah, send it in triplicate. Send it to Secretary of War, send it to the president, send it to your congressperson, send it to everybody that would have anything to do with questioning this in an authoritative way. And it's not some like my screen's not popping up at all. Why is that?
You were on there. Now you're not. Now you're on.
Okay. I don't know why that was. Well, it's not, everybody wants to treat it too like, oh, whatever, it's a choice thing. No, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be available for anybody to consume, whatsoever. It should be removed and destroyed, and anybody that had anything to do with it should be hunted down like dogs and thrown into a jail cell. That's what I think.
And
Hashtag
to
indict Fauci.
to that point though, like choice is very important. And so for those individuals that you're saying that believe it is a choice, that's true, it should be a choice. But in this case, that choice shouldn't exist because the entire process, they lied to us. You didn't get the proper consent in order to make the proper choice. These individuals getting the vaccine probably didn't know, oh, it causes myocarditis. It doesn't even fucking work. It does this. Like they didn't know that, right? They were lied to the entire time. So how can you make a proper decision and have choice when you didn't even have the right information?
Yeah, and that information is readily available nowadays too. So the argument would be, okay, well it's available to them so they could go and they could look. If they're idiots and they want to drink motor oil, they should. But that's not what you say to somebody that you love. That's what you say to somebody you have contempt for, right? You wouldn't say that same thing about your mother or your child or your grandparent. You would take the motor oil away from them. Grandma, give me the paint. You would not let them drink that under any circumstance because you know it will fuck them up and probably kill them. So it's a contempt-filled statement. You say that about somebody you hate or you care nothing for, and that's a disgusting statement. I want to say that unequivocally. That's a dumbass argument. Okay, we're all in the same country, right? We and the us three at least in this chat, we give a shit about the service members that we served with, the ones that came before us and the ones that come after. And we don't want them to be clotting when they're 30. Okay? We would like for them to be able to play with their kids when they're 45. That would be great. That would be ideal. And I want that same thing for my neighbor and his neighbor and the guy on the other side of the country too, because we're all Americans. And that kind of statement is antithetical to that kind of thought process. Okay? If I don't give a shit about you or what you ingest, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care for you. I have no love for you. Die for all I care. That's what that statement says. And I'm taking this time to say that that is sick, right? Because when this goes out, I'm going to be clipping this part and I'm going to be putting it out probably first because I've seen it a bunch. You people are sick if you say that. Okay? This is poison and it needs to be taken off the schedule. And there are people that you can reach out to right now that have the power to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And those individuals that make those comments, they also have no idea what they're talking about, right? Lieutenant, well, Captain now, right? Warziak Lucas, he went back into service and he did his picture and it went on X and and then there was a bunch of comments and they're talking about, oh, you're gonna get this guy that refuses a lawful order to rejoin. These people talk so much shit and in all these comments. you can tell they have no idea what they're talking about. Because first of all, the order was unlawful, right? So anybody that thinks it's still lawful, right? Oh, you can't get a vaccine and serve your country, but you're going to go and be a captain. Like, what are you talking about? Like they're so confused and so ignorant to the fact what's going on. They're just opening their mouths, talking shit without um, any research onto the subject, period. And that is scary and it's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely it is, you know. And we just spent the past three parts of this long episode discussing how it was an unlawful order. We laid it out for you from John's testimony to Scott's, and before that with the prologue episode. We explained how this was not a lawful order and how it was planned and how this wasn't some unwitting thing that people just fell into. These commanders just fell into this position where they had to make a decision between doing the right thing and their pension. No, they knew what they were doing was wrong and they did it anyway. And we just laid all of that out the past three episodes, the three parts of this episode. Um,
One
so if you
last thing
don't,
I want to point, one last thing I want to point out, Rob, is the thing that's coming up in June. I think John would definitely want to talk about that, and I'll put it up if that's cool with you. That's going to be the Duty to Disobey
yeah,
come
absolutely. Let's talk
documentary
about it.
coming out. Yeah, so John will touch more on it, but basically what it comes down to is there was a documentary that was done by service members, for service members. Hopefully, it hasn't been touched or tampered with. That's my prayer because it's good. This is going to get what we were saying about out front to the American public. Okay, this is going to be in theaters across the country and around the world that I've heard. Okay, and John will talk about it, but I want to pull it up just to show you that we had working on this too. So there's going to be other ones that are being done as well, of course. But this is the one that we're pretty much going to do. Cleveland, Ohio. Jen's taking care of everything and hosting it. She's amazing, and so is everybody else that's been working on this project even beforehand. Everybody's been amazing from the get-go, from the jump, um, with everything. So this one's going to be in Cleveland, Ohio, but the actual first one is going to be June 10th. It's going to be in Washington, D.C. So in front of congressional, that I've heard congressional members and others. So hopefully this is not a pretext to them trying to stop it when it releases on the 30th. You see what I'm getting at? So just open up your mind and look at both. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if they see this and this stuff gets out to the public, you understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Um, they might not want that. So you got to think of these things in a war fashion. Now, our prayer is that it doesn't happen that way and this gets out to people because it's basically going to show and tell everything that you've heard from all the podcasts, yours, Rob, and everybody else's that's been working with service members that have been saying this, or even on social media that have been saying this the whole time since the get-go. So, John, you want to elaborate on this a little bit, buddy?
Yeah, and again, Cleveland, Ohio, we're gonna head down there. We'll be down there probably somewhere around the 27th to the 30th of June, and then I'll be coming back home. But anyways, it's gonna be a good time. Brad Miller's gonna be there. Chaplain James, his wife's gonna be there. Jen will obviously be there. She's coordinating the whole thing. Scott will be there with me, and there's going to be more individuals there as well that have been
Yep.
standing up and fighting this whole thing. I got a couple messages on Messenger. Um, guys like, hey, I'm gonna head down to Ohio. Just got my tickets, so he knows who I'm talking about. So I hope I meet you there, brother.
Same
So it's
here.
gonna be a good time. So the censorship issue is an issue that we've been dealing with, right? Everything that we've done in group settings, um, I'm not going to call out a bunch of shit, but my opinions and how I see things and view things and how I put out the documentation and show you the truth. I make opinions and, I'll say those are my opinions. That's what I think. But when I state a fact, I usually have documentation to back that fact up. or I'll state a fact of some documentation I've already showed prior. That way, everybody knows I'm not bullshitting. And that's how my podcast runs. When me and Scott go on there, you're free to say and do whatever you want because we're not going to censor it because it's the truth's the truth, man. That's how we roll. The issue with getting all these individuals together that have stood up and fought and making a documentary about it is, all right, Children's Health Defense is making this documentary, and then Toby, his full name, I don't remember his full name, but Toby is the director of the documentary, and so he's putting it together. But the problem is, once we get a group of individuals that have been standing up and fighting and really pushing back, and then we get a group and we go in here, and now, right, we basically got to sign paperwork that says, hey, you're able to take my recording and do whatever you need to do with it for the documentary. And this is where censorship comes into play, right? So now we get to find out, are these individuals foe or friends? Because we haven't seen the documentary. So once it comes out, and there's a playing in DC on the 10th, so we might, have a little more understanding though at that point in time. But once I actually watch it, then we'll have a better understanding of how they're trying to present this to the people, right? The truth is, right, the United States military, this is a military operation. The military violated U.S. Code 1107 Alpha, and they lied to the service members and they forced this vaccine on the people. And they did this in such a way. Then, the DMed shit came out. They covered all that shit up and they made us look like we were the ones that did something wrong and they kicked us out. Like they did the most horrible shit you could possibly think of to their service members. There's a captain. I think it's Captain Ritter. They locked up a commander. They locked him up in a psych ward, and they were gonna pump him full of medication and kill him because the cocktail that they were gonna give him, if you put that together, it would kill somebody, right? But luckily, he knew some other individuals that had high rank, made some phone calls, actually got him out of that scenario, and that's probably the reason why he's alive today. That was for refusing to take the vaccine, right? So this shit happened to people, but the point is this documentary and whoever's running this, right, is foe or friend? And we're going to find out because if they're going to come across and try and use this documentary to like soften it to the people and give them a soft blow and act like the military didn't violate these regulations or cut a bunch of shit that we think's important that needs to get out. Like if I said it and you cut it, cool. As long as somebody else in the documentary says it, because I'm sure everybody that went to the documentary was saying the military violated the law. The military did this, the military did that. And so again, it basically gives the enemy the chance to control the narrative by taking a group of individuals that have been fighting, um, in the correct manner, whatever manner they're doing, and then you bring them all together, and then they put your face all over the world, and then change, like, kind of like make your opinion like less of what it actually is. Does that make sense?
Right.
And then
No,
so
that
now
makes total sense.
instead of thinking a certain way, they think a different way. It's we'll see what happens. I try not to worry too much about that piece, but I did want to mention it because again, we're going to be doing a Q&A in Ohio, and so we'll be able to answer questions, we'll be able to make comments, and you can be sure if the documentary doesn't um, you know, go the way it should go as far as informing the American people of the truth. I'm gonna fucking say exactly what's on my mind when the documentary's over, guaranteed. And
Right.
if they stabbed us in the back, if they well not just us, but if they stabbed this movement in the back, you're gonna see me fucking get really fucking mad in front of I don't know how many people are gonna be there, but I'm not gonna hold back.
Right.
That's all I got.
And you can expect the Still Faithful Project to be there with a camera to document that flip out.
Yeah,
Because
well, it's gonna be a good time.
yeah,
I won't
Good,
hurt
John. I
nobody.
will be holding you back with a fishing net, man.
Well, the person that deserves the beating probably won't be there, so that's okay. But yeah, it's not cool, man, and I hope it does go the way everybody would think it should go, and I hope it's all about getting the information out to the American people, and it's about getting the truth out to them, not lies, not covering shit up. just the hard truth, man. And if they don't like it, I'm fucking sorry, man. It's the truth. It is what it is.
They
I
don't like it.
couldn't,
They got to stand. They should stand up alongside with us, and we
Yep.
go and
And fix this shit.
keep pushing until they fix the damn thing.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. John Delarm, Scott Lauderbaugh, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate
You.
the time that y'all were able to give me for these subsequent episodes, and we'll be putting these out on Twitter, on YouTube, and I got banned from X. They finally banned me. They didn't like what Billy was talking about with the FOIA request, so they shadow banned me at first, and then they finally deleted my account after Jennifer of Wailiki, Israel. I posted her letter video talking about
Wow.
sudden death syndrome, and they
The X
permanently
or
banned
Twitter?
my. Excuse me, I'm sorry, not X. I said X. I meant
Yeah.
TikTok. My
Okay,
TikTok. I was
TikTok.
on TikTok. We had close to 3,000 followers, and they canned me for talking about the
Wow.
vaccine. So we've we'll be back there eventually, but for right now, we're
I
going
might
off
just
of
open
there.
up uh what is it, TikTok so I can just get kicked
TikTok
off.
account.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
open it up so I can get kicked off. That'll be cool.
Yeah, so you can be a part of the club everybody else has. But I'm also on Rumble, where you will find this and where you can find the Forgotten Soldiers and their culmination of work over the years on this subject, where they interview a plethora of different service members about their experiences through this illegal, lawless period of time that we all experienced. So, with that, I will end off the episode. I thank you both for being here, and I will see y'all in the next one.